Hey y'all, wanted to do a quick little front update. Things are really starting to green up, really starting to look good. We have tulip blooms. They are getting ready to start blooming. It is early, but hey, not much that we can do about it. We typically here in zone 7 still get freezes through Easter-ish time frame. So we still have some freezes coming our way, no doubt. And I think in the 10-day forecast, I saw 32 degrees mixed in there for one of the lows. Obviously not super low, nothing to be super concerned about, but we typically do get a hard freeze at some point between now and Easter. So really hoping that maybe we won't this year and everything will just get kind of a head start on spring. So right now we're just kind of in that faux spring. It's about 73 degrees here today, and it has been for the last couple of days, and it's just been so nice. We got some rain a couple days ago, which we are super thankful for, because something else I need to share is our front sprinkler system currently has a leak, and that is going to get fixed this week. We actually thought last week that we might have had a leak in our main. We had the city come out and they determined that it was actually the sprinkler system. So we need to get that fixed, and hopefully that gets done this week, because if the temperatures stay like they are now, we're definitely going to need to water here before too long. And actually Tommy and I were walking in the neighborhood this morning. We walk all the time, but we saw multiple city flags, and our neighbor actually just had their city main fixed. And so the freezing temps that we had back in January really did a number on some sprinkler systems and some mains. And over here, just across the street, we actually had the whole street's water was shut off when we had that really cold snap because the water main busted. So we are thankful that we just had a sprinkler valve that needed to be replaced. And yeah, that's just sometimes the things that you deal with when you're gardening and when you live in a zone that just has temps that get that low. I wish we didn't get that low, but we did, and so some things that we just have to deal with. But let me just flip around really quick. I want to show you the tulips. I want to show you the hydrangeas. I want to show you the new growth that has put on the boxwoods just since I trimmed. I think that was the last video or the video before that. So if you haven't seen that, you might go back and check that out. But let me flip around here and I'll show you how the front is looking, because I imagine in a couple weeks at the end of this month and early April, it's gonna look totally different. So why don't we just go ahead and start here. You can see all of the tulips coming up, and you can see the blooms. You can see another one back there. As much as I'm ready for color, it's still just a little bit early. And then the alliums are getting ready to push. You can see how big the alliums are here. I'm very happy with the progress. In previous videos, I transplanted these from the back, and they have acted like they never even moved. So since I trimmed the boxwoods a couple weeks ago, look at how much new growth they have put on. So for those of you that may or may not know, the reason you trim your boxwoods to get them thicker is you see where that cut was made, and it goes from, see if I can get a good look here, from 1 branch up to 3 right there. Just helps the boxwood fill out and get thicker, and allows you to shape it into your desired form. So I'm really happy with those. I am a little bit concerned about this Green Mountain boxwood over here. That is actually one that when we were transplanting it, there was a really large stone like right at the base of it, and Tommy's shovel slipped and it kind of damaged the root ball a little bit. So in the last couple days, it started to look honestly a little bit worse, but on the interior it doesn't look all that bad. But you can see how much of a different color that one is than this one, and it is the same variety. So I'm not sure if that boxwood's gonna make it. If it doesn't, we'll just get a replacement. It's just part of transplanting. It's just just a big risk when it comes to that. Here is our sprinkler system issue. So we have the big valve box right here, and that's the reason that stone is there. I don't necessarily love to look at that box, so I always put a stone where a box is, and then that way you can look at the dirt and the stone instead of something like that. Anyways, that's our sprinkler valve box. Here is the valve that was damaged and needs to be replaced. Tulips are starting to kick in. Catmint right there is looking good. It's starting to flush out. I cut back just about everything in a previous video. There is the Faux Castle Artemisia. In the last video, I actually said wormwood. Wormwood is Artemisia. That specific variety is Faux Castle. And then I still need to cut back all of the pink muley grass. I actually just forgot to do that the other day. I like the winter interest of it, but when it starts pushing new growth for spring, I like to cut everything back. I could leave it and it wouldn't be a big deal, but I just prefer to cut it back. Here is something I'm really excited about. The little lime hydrangeas are really starting to push new growth. Once we get past the point of the risk of a hard freeze, I will be coming in here and pruning some of these. So this is little lime and it blooms on new wood, so it's not as important that you prune it in late winter or early spring, but I will come in here and I will cut down to there because those right at that bud formation, it's not going to do anything above that. So those are looking good. And you might remember in a video quite a while ago, I needed a lot of little lime hydrangeas and I could hardly find any. I found them at the wholesale nursery, but they didn't look that great. And I decided to give them a shot anyways, and I'm glad that I did. And here is, see if I can get a good view of this. My camera doesn't want to steady. This is a double hydrangea. It's wedding something. I'll have to go back and look at the exact variety. I planted that early on when we moved in. There's Tucker. Have some daffs blooming over here. Daffs are early bloomers. Some hyacinth that's hiding in there. There's actually a lot of things that I didn't know that we had in these beds. They were kind of covered up by some things that were planted up against the wall. And so this is actually, you know, the first true spring after we've had everything redone to our liking. And so there's things in here that I didn't even know were in here, so that's exciting. The Nemorosa Rose Salvia is already blooming, and there is another one over here that actually has a ton of buds on it right there. So I'm really excited for this color mix, and I'm really excited for the tulip show. There's tons of tulips in here that are like these I didn't plant. These are the ones that I planted. You can see here, so this is a great example. Let me zoom in a little bit. Great example of the reliability of tulips coming back for us here in zone 7. So you can see the difference. Like, these were probably last year's tulips. It'll be very interesting to see what comes up this year, because as you know, I planted all purple. However, there appears to be quite a few of last year's tulips that are going to come up. But there's the difference. So those are a little bit taller. Definitely all that were planted did not come back. Here is the mound that I planted. And then these are probably these really sporadic small ones. are probably from years past. So tulips just aren't reliable here for us as a perennial. Even though some of them may come back, they don't come back reliably. So that's why we plant tulips as annuals here in Zone 7. I'm ready for this to fill in and start looking a little bit better. I think I might have lost some of the little bunny fountain grass, which I'm pretty bummed about because I did have a hard time finding that this last year, and maybe I can find it the exact same place that I found it at the end of last summer. So we'll see, because I really like the dwarf bunny grass. This is a project for this spring. I'm really just not sure what I'm going to do with this dead space yet. The little lime hydrangeas that you see here, and there's another one over here, but those will get 3 to 5 feet tall. So I'll keep them in size check. A big reason why I did purchase little lime hydrangeas, because they bloom on new wood, so it's a little bit easier to keep them in size check. Let me go down here and I will pull my I'll pull my camera off my stabilizer, and I'll show you a specific bloom of a tulip that I'm looking at right now, and I'll show you the dwarf bunny grass. And one other thing before I move to those two things, here is the Russian sage that I cut back really hard. It's doing well. The freeze that we had just really got to it. I don't typically trim it back this hard, but all of the new growth was coming up from the crown of the plant at soil level, so I just decided to go ahead and cut that pretty far back. I cut it about 3 inches from the ground because none of the branches had any sort of green in them. I scraped the bark, no green. They weren't pliable, they weren't flexible, they just broke, so I just opted to go ahead and cut them down really low. Normally, if I wanted to keep Russian sage in size check, I would just cut it about 6 inches from the ground and then allow the plant to produce new buds from that like 6-inch mark. Here's a good example of a dwarf bunny grass that I'm pretty sure that I lost. So not all of them are like this. I probably there's probably 2 or 3 that I think that I lost. So they don't like to be really wet in really their dormancy or any period, and so we had a really wet winter, so I think that contributed to it. Here is the first tulip bloom of the season. That's a Yume no Murasaki. It's kind of an iris shaped tulip, and it's very short, way shorter than it should be. I just spotted something that I forgot to cut back. Right there is a Russian sage that I forgot to cut back. Add that to the list. Let me show you an example of some dwarf bunny grass that is doing very well. All of the Mr. Goodbud sedum that I planted is pushing new growth. There's some more right back there. And I will be planting so much more of that. Pink Motion Veronica right there. Looking for a lot more of that as well. And then cone flowers I will be adding into the front as well. I have some cone flowers that are coming back, but I did purchase purple cone flower, and the only one that bloomed last year after we got them in the ground was white. So we'll see if they come back white. If they come back white, I'm okay with that. But really any other color other than white, I probably will not leave. Some cute little daffs there. May Night Salvia is getting ready to bloom. But this is going to be a mix of pinks and purples and whites up here. And I'm pretty excited to see the spring show of tulips, as well as the rest of the plants filling in up here. I'm super excited for this to be our first spring in this house, that the gardens are truly starting to feel like us in our style. So I have so much stuff to do. I've been really busy at work, and I need to get some seeds started inside, and we still need to get some stuff going in the back in the raised beds. So I will have so much more content for you guys coming up. I'm going to have to get to it because, again, I have so much work to do and kind of starting to run out of time. But you know, that is also part of gardening. It's like, you know, people have 9-to-5 jobs and they have full-time jobs, and you kind of have to do things when you can. And I think that it's pretty cool when you think about it and you look at things and you're like, hey, I didn't do this. Let the wind die down. I didn't do this at the exact time that I was supposed to do this. I didn't do this the exact way that I was supposed to do this. I didn't cold stratify these seeds. I didn't, you know, XYZ. There's so many things, and plants are pretty resilient. So if anything comes from my channel, maybe let it be like, hey, it doesn't always have to go the exact way that everybody says it should go. And, you know, what's in your gardening handbook and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you just have to get things done when you can. And that's just kind of my gardening style. So anyways, that is all that I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video. You know, when I do another recap video of the front, when we get out of this faux spring period, I think there will be so much more filling in of the plants. And then, you know, once we get past that frost period, you know, after Easter, then I'll really start putting some more things into the ground up here. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind, I would so love it if you would like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye, y'all. Actually, let me show you one more thing. So a subscriber, Irene, sent me these tulips, and I planted these in the fall, and they are looking so good. The pansies and the violas up here are looking awful. I did not cover some of this stuff, and it's, for those of you that may not know, it's in a raised elevated window box. So I should have probably covered that and would have kept the pansies and the violas in a little bit better shape. But all of these are coming up, and look at this one. This one's just so pretty. So again, thank you so much, Irene, for sending me these tulips. They are beautiful, and I can't wait for them all to come up. I'll be adding some more things into this window box this spring. In a previous video, I planted some things that were a little more shade loving, and then we had one of these large branches off this maple cut because it was hitting the house, and so this now gets a large patch of overhead sun, and it just got too hot for some of those plants. So I pulled those and I planted those elsewhere, and then when we are able, I will get some evergreens planted in this window box and then fill in with tulips and pansies and spring and seasonal appropriate flowers as the seasons change.